I should probably start this by pointing out that yes, I have seen the Angry Video Game Nerd's own retrospective on the first Ninja Turtles animated series, and of course, I recommend checking it out. All I can say is that I'll be covering more than just that first series, and hopefully can provide my own detail and insight into this one. With that out of the way, let's begin. The original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles series, produced by Murakami Wolf Swinson for Playmates Toys, first aired in syndication with a 5-part miniseries that debuted in December of 1987, as Playmates wanted the TV series to debut first and see success before pushing forward with the toy line. The premiere episode, Turtle Tracks, opens with the first crush of so many tween boys in the 80s, April O'Neil, who is investigating a series of rather bizarre robberies of scientific equipment companies, where the professors there are deducing they have to be the work of ninjas due to sword incisions and ropes manufactured in Japan. Dude, you're a doctor, not a detective! And their theory about ninjas gets proved correctly when April and her crew get attacked by street punks.
We got a message for you from the big boss man. He wants you should stick to reporting fashion shows.
Oh, okay, sure, no problem.
He don't believe you.
By the way, I gotta mention this. You remember the Nostalgia Critic's review of these episodes, where he said April shouldn't fit into that gutter due to her endowments? Well, in the Archie published comic book of these episodes, the panel for that scene had April saying it was a tight squeeze. Yeah! So the thugs trap April in the sewers before they get taken out by our 4 heroes, who upon revealing themselves, cause their very first fainting spell. Yeah, that's gonna happen a lot in this franchise. The Turtles take her back to their lair, and it's here that Splinter reveals their story of how he was once the ninja teacher of the Foot Clan, Hamato Yoshi, but was betrayed and framed by his student, Oroku Saki, banished from the clan, and forced to live in the sewers of New York, living with just the rats, until some fool kid dropped his pet turtles down the drain. I only saw 4 turtles in that bowl, not 5! Okay, I'll hold off on that until we get to that series. And then one day, the Turtles and Yoshi come across the mutagen ooze that made the Turtles humanoid since they had been around Yoshi, and turned Yoshi into a rat man since he had most recently been around rats? And somehow Yoshi figured out all of this himself? The Turtles named Yoshi Splinter for his ability to chomp and break boards, while Yoshi named them after his favorite Renaissance artists, Leonardo, Donatello, Michelangelo, and Raphael, and trained them as ninjas. That's the origin story we were told, and we're sticking by it! I'll try to sum up Turtle Tracks as fast as I can. The Turtles agree to help April find the ninja thieves, so she takes them to the surface and gets them their famous Flasher costumes. Really, who wears trench coats like that in the last 50 years? And they look for clues in the Ninja District. Man, I wish Dallas had a ninja district. The downtown would be so revitalized with a ninja district. April discovers the robbers have been posing as security guards before getting caught by them, leading to the Turtles' first battle with the foot soldiers. And of course they're robots, and it's not so we can see our heroes slice and dice their foes without actually killing anyone. It's because it saves the Shredder a ton on employee pay. And let's get this out of the way. Yes, the Shredder is voiced by James Avery. But keep this in mind, he had this role before The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air went on the air. So in actuality, it's the Shredder playing Uncle Phil rather than vice versa. Get it? To finish things up, the robots destroy their own operation to try and stop the turtles, and Splinter deduces that Oroku Saki is behind everything, leading us to Enter the Shredder. As the Turtles and Splinter hunt down Saki, we learn that he's been working with an exiled alien warlord named Krang, who helped him build a giant moving coliseum of death called the Technodrome. You know, why did someone waste time petitioning the White House to build a Death Star? This is what we could use! We could totally wipe out our enemies both at home and abroad if we had a Technodrome! Krang recommends that Shredder mutate his own minions, and thus he takes two of the punks, Bebop and Rocksteady, and turns them into a warthog and a rhino. What happens to the other punks? Well, it's shown later that he did experiment with them, but they're not seen again after this miniseries. And that's just one of numerous discontinuity issues we'll talk about along the way. Shredder also captures Splinter and reveals to the Turtles that he was responsible for their mutations, and thus they should join his forces. Yes, team with the guy who turned their guardian into a rat while actually trying to kill him. Raphael has the best reply to this.
Does the phrase, "go suck a lemon," hold any meaning for you?
Once the Turtles save Splinter and defeat his new mutants, who are all brawn and no brain, we can move on to A Thing About Rats, where we meet Baxter Stockman, a scientist who has invented the ultimate rat trap, but can't get it sold because it would put the big pest control companies out of business. Yeah, the proponents of wind and solar power know just how you feel. So naturally, Baxter accepts the offer of a wacko covered in spikes to mass-produce his Mausers so he can use them to hunt down a rat man and his 4 humanoid turtles.
That guy must really have a thing about rats.
To sum this plot up, once the Turtles find the Mausers are after them, they get April to help track down Baxter before the Mausers chow down on her apartment. Geez, I hope everyone there had good renter's insurance. They steal Baxter's van to find the Shredder's hideout, our heroes everyone, and destroy Shredder's control to the Mausers, leading us into hot-rodding teenagers from Dimension X. It's here we learn more of Krang's backstory, that he needs Shredder to build him a replacement body so he can command his troops from Dimension X in this world. Here is where we see the first appearance of the plot device known as the Transdimensional Portal. As Donatello constructs the Turtle Van, which is called the Party Wagon in every other version for some reason, Shredder opens the portal for the first time, where come out the Neutrinos, a group of annoying, jive-talking hipsters whose dress style might look out of place at Galaxy High School. We also see Krang's Stone Warriors, General Trag and Granitor. At least that's what he was called in an NES game. That's all I've got to go on.
My lord, what has happened to your body?
It's a long story. I lost it when they banished me to this miserable mud bowl.
There's a couple of fights before the Turtles send the Warriors back through the portal and the Neutrinos follow them. The miniseries concludes with Shredder is splintered, or shredded and splintered. Yeah, this title always confused me the most.
We can wait no longer. We must put the Shredder away.
I agree, Leonardo. The time has come for the final battle with my old enemy.
By this point, the people of New York have begun to notice that some strange things have been going on, and that giant turtles have been seen there. As April looks to quell the hysteria, not the easiest thing to do, since her news manager is among the hysterical, Shredder violates several FCC regulations to tell the Turtles that he now has a retro mutagen gun that can restore Splinter to normal, and dares the Turtles to come take it from him. Why didn't he just flat out say, "I'm setting a trap for you"?
The ray could restore me to my human form, but what if the Shredder used it on you?
we'd be changed back into ordinary turtles.
It's here that the turtle comms are introduced, and Donatello builds the turtle blimp as they must fight Krang in his new body. Now, I've already pointed out that this show, along with many others in the 80s, was built around its toy line, but despite its early appearance in the series, a correct scale model of Krang's robot body was one of the last action figures released in the whole series. And yes, as a kid wanting to collect all of the show's main characters, that was frustrating. The Turtles naturally defeat Krang, Splinter destroys the Retro Mutagen gun to save the Turtles, and Donatello messes around with the portal to send the Technodrome into Dimension X.
Rock, dudes! We did it! We won!
In Dimension X, I am absolute master. You will do my bidding from now on.
The Shredder takes orders from no one.
We shall see, Oroku-sake!
And to think, James Avery actually compared those two to an old married couple. The miniseries ends with the people being split in their opinions on the Turtles, and Splinter warning them that Shredder and Krang may not be finished.
I bet we never even hear so much as a peep out of them again.
Stay tuned for tonight's sci-fi chiller thriller killer movie. It's a real classic, The Evil Brain from Dimension X.
Aw, take a hike, man!
And so ends the first episodes of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles animated series. It reportedly was shown 3 times before picking up an audience, but the show eventually picked up the following that would grow into the juggernaut that it is. It definitely benefited from the growing home video boom at the time, as the VHS tape releases of the episodes helped grow its following even further. By that time, the show had been cleared to get a full second season, which meant that Splinter's warning to his reptilian students would come true. Their battles with Oroku-sake the Shredder were just beginning, and we'll take a look at the next chapter in that saga right after this. The eventual success of the first 5-episode miniseries led to Playmates releasing the first toy line in the summer of 1988, and a full 13-episode second season with the financial backing of Group W Productions to air it on syndication. The second season debuted in October 1988 with Return of the Shredder. It's in this second season that the discontinuity issues that will frequent this series really begin. See, back in the Shredder is Splintered episode, Bebop and Rocksteady fought the Turtles and were left trapped in a pile of cement, not seen for the rest of the episode. And now here they are back in the Technodrome, stuck in Dimension X, with Shredder and Krang, with no explanation. I mean, maybe the Roadkill Rodney bots came for them, like in the second episode, but again, it was never shown. Anyway, Shredder's whining like a petulant child finally pays off, and Krang agrees to send him back to Earth, but in a more hampered state.
You failed to defeat those miserable turtles and their teacher Splinter with my help. Now you must destroy them on your own. I will never give you another speck of aid until you prove worthy of it.
Eventually, Shredhead decides to recruit his old partner in crime, Baxter Stockman. Wait, what? So, 1 episode into this season, and we get 2 discontinuity hits. Back in A Thing About Rats, Baxter was more or less Shredder's patsy, not even fully aware of his full plan. Now he's suddenly a full-on mad scientist? Apparently being locked up with a guy who thinks he's Napoleon drove him to insanity. It's here that we're also further introduced to the supporting cast, particularly the staff at Channel 6. Burns' vendetta against the Turtles is fully established. See, even in the 80s, the media was biased in their coverage. And Vernon, who didn't have that much of a personality in the first season, is now shown as a whining, cowardly, total suck-up. We're also introduced to Irma, the receptionist, April's friend, totally desperate for a man, and one of the biggest animated examples of Hollywood homely. Oh, and I think she has a cousin who works with these guys who fight ghosts or something.
Don't sweat it, Vernon. If I had to, I'd do an interview with Bigfoot.
If you do, find out if he's married.
So basically, April has to fight against her boss's anti-turtle blitz while the turtles fight Shredder while keeping in touch with each other via their turtle comms. Yeah, who knew Donatello pioneered the modern-day cell phone? Heck, he even developed different models of them, as most of them used collapsible versions, but April had this flip-top model that allowed her to talk in public while making it look like she was getting all pretty. There's a 4-part series after this episode on the Eye of Sarnath, which is more or less a standalone arc, followed by a single ep called Attack of the Killer Pizzas before the season really starts developing. In the episode Enter the Fly, Shredder gets tired of Baxter's failures and begs Krang to send him Bebop and Rocksteady, throwing Baxter into Dimension X in exchange. Krang's response is to try and disintegrate Baxter, and instead mutes him into a fly monster. Cartoons in the 80s, people! Shredder convinces Baxter to rejoin him, and then Baxter apparently gets zapped out of our dimension again. Well, guess we won't see him anymore. The next episode, Splinter No More, has the Turtles find a way to restore Splinter to his human form using the last remnants of the mutagen. Not sure why they didn't try that before, but it ultimately doesn't matter because the restoration doesn't stick. However, it lasts long enough for Yoshi to see the world outside and decide that he ultimately prefers living with the Turtles as Splinter. Keep that in mind for later. This is also where Bebop and Rocksteady are first given their stun lasers, and isn't it nice how Shredder has his forces follow Starfleet protocol, always setting their weapons on stun? Teenagers from Dimension X shows the return of the neutrinos, and I have to say they're quite a bit less annoying in this one. They show a bit more character and individual personality here, and of course the romantic feelings between Michelangelo and Kala that was hinted at back in Season 1 is taken into further detail. In addition to showing us the hyper signal the neutrinos can use to travel to Earth, we're also introduced to the cheapskate skateboards, and I've always been disappointed that I only got one of those for my collection. In fact, there were a number of figures I missed on. I only got one of the Walking Mauser figures, and I missed out on General Trag and the Sewer playset. Man, there was so much more money my family and I could have thrown into this machine. Not that every character on the show got a toy. The episode Invasion of the Punk Frogs brought us the Turtles' amphibious counterparts when Krang mistakenly sent a can of mutagen to Florida and created Attila the Frog, Genghis Frog, Rasputin the Mad Frog, and Napoleon Bonafrog, all named by Shredder Natch. Of those four, only Genghis and Napoleon got action figures. Sad. Also among those that didn't get figures was the police robot Rex 1, introduced in the episode New York's Shiniest. I also bring this episode up because it has one of the worst continuity blunders ever. The Turtles are confronted by Shredder-controlled police bots and actually drive the van into the Hudson to escape them. And then just a few minutes later, April and Splinter are driving the van? What the frack? Did this episode even have an editor? Oh, and the episode ends by showing again how hard up Irma is by going out with the Rex robot. Really, how was it so difficult for her to find a guy? She wasn't that bad looking! The season's penultimate episode was The Catwoman from Channel 6, where April is turned into the ultimate fantasy of fans of both Turtles and anime catgirls. It's one more key episode because this is where Irma finally meets the Turtles face to face. And she also briefly falls for Splinter until she finds out that he's, well, a rat.
You must be Irma.
Wrong! I must be going.
The season concludes with Return of the Technodrome. Krang, fed up with all of the failures, finally decides to find a way to bring the huge moving fort back to Earth using power from the Niagara power plant to open a large enough portal. Yeah, didn't know that New York City got its power all the way from upstate Niagara Falls. The Turtles can't stop the Technodrome from returning, and Krang plans to level the entire city with an earthquake, forcing the Turtles to sneak into the Technodrome so Donatello can work his techno magic to wreck everything. I'm wondering if this is going to become a recurring plot theme. And before we finish this up, I do want to make a brief statement regarding the music. Chuck Lorre's soundtrack was every bit a key to the show as Ron Wasserman's was to Power Rangers, and one number that really stuck out for me was what I can only call the climactic battle theme. It does come with a very ominous presence that brings forth the feel of an ultimate confrontation.
Curse you!
Something tells me this is the grand finale.
I'm sure glad we got good seats.
Hey, like we forgot all about Splinter! Oh, he's still in the Technodrome! All right, you made it! Let's haul shell. That thing's about to drill straight down to the Earth's core. This is all your fault! I'll get you, Maggie!
Well, we finally put an end to Krang and Shredder's evil plans for world domination.
You know, that's now twice you've said that. I wonder if we're gonna hear it any more times. The first two seasons of the original Ninja Turtle series set the groundwork for a show that was a lot more influential than some might think. Cartoon shows like this and Transformers were among the first to lay out an overall story arc for the series, which was rarely, if ever, done at the time. And while they may have been created primarily as a hook to sell toys, they succeeded because those toys were made into actual characters. Each had personalities and quirks that identified them and made them entertaining. The Turtles weren't just interchangeable. You had the strong and determined leader, the party animal, the snark machine, and the techno genius, along with villains and other supporting members that showed character and charisma as well. All of this, along with the action, is what drove us to want more and more from this series. And sure enough, more would come. We're just getting started, people. Tune in next time to see just how big this series will start getting.